Hello everyone and welcome to the University of Arts London College of Fashion 2025 Fashion Business School postgraduate podcast sessions. These series of panel discussions have been driven and influenced by the exciting and topical fashion industry related subjects researched and delivered by our postgraduate master's programme students for their final major projects. They cover current and relevant themes shaping the wider fashion industry, such as global supply chains and policies, psychology in fashion, online environments and inclusivity, and the use of AI. We hope that you enjoy these sessions and thank you for listening.
Hi everybody, I'm Dr. Nina van Volkinburg and I am the course leader of the MA Strategic Fashion Marketing course. And I am so lucky to be speaking with two brilliant MA students from London College of Fashion to hear more about their master's project and really to talk about the future of an industry that we love, which is fashion. And specifically, we're going to be talking about craft heritage. We're going to be talking about collaborative business models and retail, and really to get the sense as to the perspective of the next generation of fashion leaders. So I'm very lucky to be joined by you both. Today we have Aavantika Chheda from the MA Fashion Entrepreneurship and Innovation course, and we have Charos Kamalova from MA Fashion Global Retailing. So the pleasure is absolutely mine. It's wonderful to have you here. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be hearing about your project. So if you could give us, the listeners, an overview of your work. You've been working hard throughout the 12 months, but especially in the past kind of 3-4 months with Block 3. And I have a few questions because I'm very curious about the process and your findings. But Aavantika, if I could start with you, if you could give an overview of your project.
Yeah, definitely. So my final project was called The Maze of Hearts. It's a capsule digital collection made on Flow 3D, inspired by Indian heritage crafts, to be specific, Kutch crafts, which is a region in the western part of India. There were 3 crafts that I took inspiration from: Ajrak, Bandhani, and mirror work. India is a country that's known for crafts for a very long time, and I wanted to find this bridge between the past and the future, the heritage and the rich history that we have, and find a way to match them with the digital future that we're seeing. And it was a 10-look capsule collection. The inspiration came from a lot of the people that I've seen who've grown with me from this kind of teenage to adulthood, where we all go through this midlife identity crisis, love, heartbreak, emotional turmoil, and I took inspiration from that, and I found a Kutch folktale, which also told the story of these 2 lovers who were kind of separated by societal norms at the time. And there's a beautiful song called Rasuda on it. I wanted to kind of retell that story with a modern context, with a lens of what Gen Z today go through, especially in India, where we have love and freedom that come with invisible boundaries. So kind of wanted my fashion collection to be a roadmap for telling that story. And the best part about that was that no hearts were broken, at least this time. Yeah.
Amazing. And I mean, you mentioned, really kind of cutting edge technology, as well as, the heritage and the craft. And, how were you able to really maintain that sense of authenticity? Was that one of the challenges that you faced?
During my primary research, I made sure that I wanted to be as real as possible. So I spoke to a lot of Kutch artisans. Mm-hmm. Even though it was a digital conversation, like a virtual conversation, I'd worked with them before in my home country in India. Mm-hmm. So I kind of knew the perspectives that they had. But for this project specifically, I wanted to know what their thoughts were on merging craft with a digital innovation or a technology that is not physical, that you can't touch or like feel. Mm-hmm. It was very interesting because they were quite open to that opportunity, and they were quite happy to see that there could be a medium for their craft to be seen differently than just fabrics and just a touch and feel. There would be a possibility of their work reaching more people, which is what I think one of the biggest assets for digitization is, that you can make your work reach more people. And with Clo 3D, that was an incredible experience for me, because I feel like authenticity and innovation, they're really not different. I feel like they're like a marriage that worked for me in this project. So kind of tying together the heritage and the authenticity and keeping in touch with the artisans, but also kind of exploring the whole digital narrative on my own was something that was an incredible adventure for me to go over. And yeah, I had like 5 crash outs a day, and so did my laptop, but it was fun. We got through.
Exactly. You have to keep it interesting in the research process. But for you, speaking and learning about more of your creative process, how did really that digital prototype experience impact the way that you really view fashion? I mean, did you feel like, you mentioned that this helped with connecting to a wider range of people, but in terms of your own practice, did you feel like you just had so much more to experiment with and more avenues for storytelling? And is this something that you'd want to build on in future?
100%. I would say having a digital collection made me realize that I could experiment so much more. When you do something physically, obviously you reiterate, you go back, you take feedback, and then you cut the fabric, you stitch it again. But once you do it, it's done. And what's different about using a Clo 3D or any other digital platform is that you can go back and Control Z as many times as you want, and you can keep iterating your designs until you're happy with it. So I feel like it was a great way not just to support sustainability, where I'm not wasting as many fabrics or I'm not utilizing as many resources to create something, but I'm also giving myself the ability and the chance to experiment and see what I can do without actually investing that amount of money or that amount of resources or the fabrics that go into it. And it took me a much shorter time than it would have to make this collection physically. And it was also great to get feedback from my potential consumers. As a part of my research, I also shared my collection with potential target audiences. That was really helpful for me, because even though I was in a different place from them, virtually I could showcase my entire collection. I made a lookbook, and then I shared it with them, and I could get live feedback from them, which I also then put back into my collection. Mm-hmm. So now I know for a fact that I have this 10-look collection that can be produced, and I've gotten the feedback. So I've done all of the necessary change and experimentation before actually making the product, which is very beneficial. So yeah.
Well, before we move on to Charos, I just wanted to ask as well, when you're making something that's digital, do you feel the same sense of connection with that digital asset as you would with something kind of quote real, something that's tangible? You mentioned being able to kind of Control Z, so you have that kind of ease of mind, because maybe one of the challenges for like an end consumer is being able to really emotionally connect with something that is intangible. Just any thoughts on that?
Definitely. I feel like with the day and age that we live in, authenticity, storytelling, and innovation kind of go hand in hand. And for Gen Z, I feel like the new authenticity is the relatability factor, right? When you look at what the current social media brands are doing, and this is not just in fashion, across, they're trying to create this sense of relatability, and that's what the next generation is looking for. So in terms of craft and in terms of having something that's tangible and hands-on, I feel like digital is the new way forward. And even if it's just a part of the process, it doesn't need to be the entire process. But if you can get through to the audiences first with your digital product and give them kind of a trailer or almost a taste of what the product is like, and then you go in and you launch the actual product, it makes a huge difference to kind of combine this digital and physical experience and get across to them with music, with visuals, with different narratives, and then bring in the actual product. So it comes as a whole package. And I believe that's kind of what a lot of brands are now looking at.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, it really opens up fashion into something that isn't based off of, clothes. It's something much greater than that. And I love the way that you kind of explored that in different ways. So thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
Charos, so, I mean, going from design now to more of the retail perspective, I know you've worked with a lot of kind of younger designers and creatives. Could you give some background maybe on yourself and your journey, as well as this project that you have been working on?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So if we were speaking about the context, my background is I'm from Uzbekistan, and back at my home, we created a platform for local designers, for independent designers, and we truly believe that by helping these young talents and giving them options to grow, to build their businesses, we actually supporting the industry itself. And that's when we started the retail experience also in Uzbekistan. And then, of course, a lot of questions raised, how to manage all this space. And then how I end up here in London, learning actually how to actually run the retail space. And I loved I loved the course we had. And during the course, I shaped my question as how independent designers actually can work with retail spaces, so both parties would be would benefit from this partnership. Because during my studies here, I also learned a lot that many big platforms, department stores, concept stores, they are actually failing now, and Matches closed, and even e-commerce spaces like Farfetched and most recent Essence, they also had troubles. And that was like the feeling that something is wrong here, something is not working well. And that's why I thought that it would be a good opportunity now, being here in London, to learn actually why it is that and how we can actually offer something more beneficial model, how they can work together. And that's why my whole project was around this topic. And I spoke to 5 independent designers here. Actually, we spoke more than 5 designers were included in the project, and 3 retailers. One of them was from quite big department store, and 2 more younger, more smaller projects. And that was very interesting actually to learn that independent designers, and no matter where they are, they face similar challenges. All independent designers, they have lack in financing, they have lack for entering actually the market, because big retailers, they are, let's say, like gatekeeping, and it's very hard to reach right people, to show them the lookbooks, to actually get their attention. And during my research, I also found out that industry is not that open as designers. Designers, they were willing to share, they were willing to actually look together for some options, how we can shape this model. But industry is a totally different thing. That was, it was hard to reach any decision-making, let's say, positions within the industry. So that's why the project itself shaped during the research. So it was very interesting to navigate and to learn how it is working. During the research, I also learned that there are some agencies who can actually help, and there are third-party players in this model. And what is their role? Like, that was my question, like for the next research, how we can actually now see the whole picture, the bigger picture of the whole industry. So yeah, that was my main question during my research here. And the overall results also were in that place, that the industry should be more open. And if the independent designer already working with the retailer should be more transparent, should be more open in terms of the feedback, in terms of the communication, because mostly designers, they are willing to change something, but they don't know what is the feedback actually there. and they need to get it too. And of course the financing, because the wholesale model is not working well right now, and there are many complaints on the wholesale model, because it's not like it used to be when you had the prepayments, when you had clear deadlines and clear number you would expect for next seasons. It's not working like that anymore. So there are now different models besides wholesale, how they can interact with each other now. So these kind of questions were discussed in my research.
So fascinating. I mean, this is something that all, press is discussing. I mean, we just are off Fashion Month, and there was a great article recently by Sarah Mower talking about the London fashion scene and how smaller independent brands are, not maybe being dictated as much by retailers and starting to do their own thing, direct to consumer, having these pop-ups. What were some of the findings that you found from the designer perspective? What advice would you give them if you are a young independent brand? How do you best navigate these, this ecosystem?
It was interesting to find out that for most designers at the beginning, the perspective is that if they will get attention, media coverage, attention from celebrities or anyone more influential in this field, they would have a boost in their career. It comes up that it's not always working like that. Even if you have this attention, even if you have some media coverage, it doesn't guarantee you cash flow. It doesn't guarantee you financial sustainability. So the first thing I think young designers should think at the beginning, how they are building their business model. They should be really careful about the numbers. They should do really proper mathematics, economics of their business, because this is the struggle. Many designers, they are very creative. They want to create some beautiful pieces, and they are not actually thinking what it will take in terms of money, how it will be financially sustainable. That's why, and we discussed it also in my research, that this collaboration between designers and retailers is very important, because sometimes some retailer models, they actually give opportunity to take all these business operations on their side, and creatives can just create their pieces, and everyone is happy. But of course, it requires financial investment also from the designer. They should be ready for that. And there is no model when a designer can do their own brand, their independent brand, without any investments. So still, you have to think about that. You have to think about the business side of your brand also. Another thing was very interesting, that designers and retailers not sharing feedback. And sometimes designers, they don't know about the struggles of the retailer, and retailer actually doesn't know anything about the struggles of the designer. And it can be very easily solved by just having these regular conversations, by just having regular calls, or any platform. They can even just text to each other, or they can exchange some news. They can exchange some, weekly points. What are they focusing on now? What is important for them now? And that would also help a lot. And if independent designer is going to work with the retailer at the just beginning, I think it would be very beneficial just to agree to have these conversations, like to say, let's meet, let's catch up, let's have these Zoom calls every month, every 2 weeks, and let's exchange feedback. You will tell me what is going on, on your side, I will tell you what is going on my side. And actually it will take half an hour, 30 minutes, but it will help so much for both sides actually to work together. Another thing we also found out was the readiness of independent designers to help actually the retailers in terms of marketing also. But it is also lacking. Designers, they sometimes they wait for retailers to promote their brand, to promote their items, and expecting it from them, and vice versa. So it's also lack of communication here again, and being very clear at the beginning, telling these terms, when you are doing the contract, really read the contract, really put your important points for yourself there, because another thing is that designers who don't have this experience, they are afraid to speak on their behalf. They think that if it's written like that, it must be like that, and that's it. They cannot change it. But no, actually they can. They can negotiate their terms. They can negotiate their conditions, how they want to be presented there, and ask for more control maybe on their items. Because the lack of experience in this starting point is crucial, and it sometimes it plays like very bad things, so they cannot then develop their businesses. They need to be more brave in these negotiations. They need to say that I'm ready to do this and this and that, and I am expecting you to do this and this and that, and be very clear at the beginning, and vice versa, of course. So the retail is also on their behalf, they would also speak like what more they can do collaboratively, so they can work together and actually promote their these items in the space together. So yeah, I think this was main recommendations in the paper also.
It's fascinating, and I have a couple questions, and I think you both could possibly answer from your design background and perspective. But in terms of the lack of communication between these stakeholders, is it simply because there's just not a process in place, where there's not, a regular Zoom call, or is it the lack of time, or is it more of a cultural thing? Like, why are the dots not connecting, would you say? In terms of your observations, maybe experience that you've had?
If I may start, I think when we spoke to the retailers, it was more on the lack of time, of course, but I think if we will put it in a process, it will be there in the schedule. So it depends on people, how they would schedule their time. The whole system didn't suppose to have any conversations. The wholesale system didn't suppose that you will have conversations with the designers, you will give them feedback. It was just about buying 100 pieces. If it's not selling, you will not go back and you will not buy anymore. That's it. So that was the feedback. If the buyer is not coming back, then something is wrong there. But you never know what was wrong there. And I think the wholesale now is changing with the commissions, with the consignment, and that's why now there is more space to actually speak and to have these conversations together. And also, even if it is wholesale, I think it's now changing because it is in the interest of the retailer also. Now they are facing huge challenges. The costs are going up and the operational costs are very high, and they cannot afford themselves to stock a lot of pieces which are not selling. So they are interested to sell everything, to have these profits, to have these margins, to sell them not on a discounted prices as they now mostly doing on e-commerce, that the discounts are there once it's on the website and it is already discounted. So it's a huge frustration for designer, and it's also very hard to navigate the pricing match between the designer and the retailer. So I think it's a necessity. So people should have this time for that, and they need to change the system. Before, the buyer had more control, the retailer had more control, and now it should be at least equal control on the stock of the designer, I would say.
I mean, that there's a sense of transparency there, because if you're a designer and a buyer's not coming back, you then automatically think, what did I do wrong? But there's a whole other story that you're not aware of. So I think what you mentioned about relatability, I think, is from the consumer perspective, but also as an industry, being relatable and being open and transparent.
Definitely. I feel like from everything I can gather, it seems very unorganized at the minute, because there's no rule that's set in stone. Whether you're a designer, whether you're a retailer, because there's so many fragments of design and you can be at so many levels within the industry. There's no set way of doing things, and I feel like as a young designer, you kind of need to chart that path for yourself with the kind of business model that you have, as you mentioned before, and the kind of investment that you've put in, the kind of stock that you know you can create in a particular season, and the number of pieces that you can provide. So as you said correctly, I feel like that's a conversation that needs to be met from both ends, and equally so if possible. With my experience in the past as well, I worked with an Indian ethnic brand on the wholesale side of things. So I would attend a lot of trade shows, and I feel like one of the challenges is also as a designer to get that feedback from the consumer, because a lot of the times the consumer doesn't know what they like, but if you give them options, they know what they like. So I feel like if there could be that dialogue and that conversation, or maybe a way to navigate how we can receive that feedback from the consumers, could be very beneficial to both parties.
And that's, I mean, you know, we need another podcast for this, but, you know, the role of AI, you know, how it's looking at consumer data, and you've kind of got this like circular system, and, we want to have something new. We want to have something that we didn't expect. And that, I think, is the role of the independent designer to, challenge us. And being here in London, you see, all these different aesthetics and, avenues of storytelling, as you mentioned, which makes fashion, exciting for us. So as we kind of approach the end, I would just love to ask you both, you're going out into the industry now, looking, over the next kind of 5-10 years, if you could change one thing, if you could snap your fingers and you could change one thing, what would you want to change in the industry? So it could be the designer perspective, it could be more communication, it could be something of consumer awareness, whatever you'd want. What is that one thing you'd want to change, and maybe would you be acting to make that happen? Yeah, whoever would like to.
I think for me that one thing would be to kind of have that openness to the new technology and to AI and to all of these different things that are coming into picture now, and this applies to across, whether you're a designer, whether you're the wholesaler, the retailer, or the consumer, because even during my research for my project, I found that when I spoke to people, there's still some kind of doubts, and rightly so, about AI and the usage of AI and whether they would replace what a human's role is. There's that fear among creative people especially, but I feel like with the advent of AI and the way things are going, in my experience, it only enhances what you do if you use it in the right way.
Yeah.
It just comes down to the amount or the percentage that you allow it to play in the process, and it could actually make things more efficient for you, and that applies across sectors. Like I said, it could help in efficiency for supply chains, it could help manufacturers, it could help consumers, it could also help us kind of navigate that feedback loop from the consumer if it's put in a creative way, where the consumer can give their feedback to you and it's interesting and engaging for them, but at the same time, you as a designer or as a retailer, you're also getting that feedback from the consumer. And I feel like that would be beneficial to everybody across. So kind of just shaking hands and opening yourself up to this new technology instead of being afraid of it. It's happened in the past. We've had hundreds of years of innovation, and every time there's a new innovation across sectors and industries, people kind of resist it at first, but then it finds its way into the system, and I feel like it's about time fashion does that too. Yeah.
I love that. We have a whole lecture on technology resistance, so my students will know all about that, but I think a lot of that boils down to also vulnerability. We don't have all the answers. We're all figuring this out, and that's why the collaboration is so important at this stage. Charos, what about yourself?
For me, I would hope that people would be more conscious when they are buying actually the fashion pieces, and for that I would say paying more attention to independent designers, local designers, is one answer to make fashion more sustainable. And I think this is the answer in such a many ways, in terms of production, in terms of ethics, in terms of meaningful fashion, when you actually buy something and you are belonging to some community, to some movement, to some vision, and supporting actually young talent. And I would say that, and I am actually working on that, creating these platforms for independent designers, for local designers, and bringing attention of people to actually spend their money and support these young talents would be so beneficial for the industry as a whole.
Yeah. And that's why fashion matters. You know, what you wear, it's a symbol of who you are, of your community, of your culture. And I think, you know, that's the beauty of LCF. We all appreciate that, and we're carrying that forward. And I'm so excited to see what you both end up doing kind of post-graduation. But thank you so much for your time. I've had such a pleasure speaking and learning about your projects. And I hope to see you around soon.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.